Hi, welcome to the Pur'N'Kleen podcast, episode number 4. My name is Rommel, and today we're going to talk about managing processes. Hey everybody, Rommel here. This episode will cover what is a process, what are the main metrics for measuring what a process is, and how should we improve a process. Before I get into that, I just want to give a quick thanks to all the subscribers, everybody that's liking and commenting. I really appreciate that. Please do let me know. I'm trying to get better at this podcasting thing. So anyway, let's get on with it. What is a process? A process is the transformation of inputs into outputs through a network of activities and buffers, utilizing resources, information technology, and management. So let's try and parse what the heck I just said in Star Citizen terms. So inputs can be things like customers, data, raw materials, cash, and so on. Outputs are things like goods and services. What happens in the middle of the inputs and outputs is what we call the process. As we think of this transformation, we can think of activities and buffers. Activities is any task that is essential or provides value to the customer. Buffers are everything but that. It can be something like a handoff between an activity and another, or a place where a unit just sits idle, stands like say in a shelf or in your hangar. And you can improve a process by either eliminating the buffers or putting them in a strategically correct place where they don't input the amount of output that you are producing. As we think about the processes, think about the resources that do the task. One of the questions you may ask yourself is, how many players do I need to crew a certain ship? Do I actually need all the full crew, or can I get by with a subset of the full crew? Is this something that we need an actual person in charge, or is it just okay to use a NPC for this? On top of that, the flow within a process is going to be governed by what we will call process management. The decision, for example, of whether we are going to recruit more players into the organization is part of the hiring process. Are we going to allow anyone to run the mining operation? Or are we going to allow just anyone to lead our fleet? All of these rules within a process are part of the process management. Another important part of the process is the information structure governing all of this. What is the demand for our goods and services, right? So in Star Citizen, it's a space MMO, right? So there's thousands of people playing at the same time. It's not just about getting the things done and selling them, right? It's about all the information around it. What is the demand for what we're doing? Can you acquire information about what your competitors are doing? Can you acquire information about what your customers' preferences are? What's hot and what's not? Can you rely on economic nodes to always buy your goods? Or can you expect maybe a Vandal incursion to drive the price up or down of a certain good? The information that is revealed over time as a customer gets closer and closer to purchase our goods and services deeply impacts the process, so that's why you need to be aware of it. The main advantage of thinking about processes like this is that it allows you to abstract away the process and focus on the flow of your business rather than specific snapshots of something that happened at a given point, right? It allows you to make a rational management decision rather than an emotional overreaction at something that happened. Say, for example, one of your pilots in your organization messed up badly and it resulted in a large loss of cargo, everybody died, etc. Rather than reacting to this and immediately blaming the player, you can think about what step in the process allowed this to even happen. Was it an issue in the hiring process? Maybe we should have trained him or her better. Was it a problem with training? Does the player not have enough resources to get the job done? Now that we understand process, let's look at metrics. What metrics matter and how should we go about them? Here are the 4 main indicators that you should be tracking. Number 1 indicator is flow time. And by the way, when I say number 1, it doesn't mean that one is more important than the other. It's just literally the order that I wrote them in. Flow time, denoted by the uppercase T, the average time to convert 1 unit of input into 1 unit of output. And this is usually measured in things like minutes, hours, days. Throughput rate, denoted by uppercase R, is the average number of units that are processed by the process per unit of time. So this is something like jobs per hour. Inventory, uppercase I, is the average number of units that are within the boundaries of the process. And process cost, the average cost to convert 1 unit of input into 1 unit of output. It may be clear to you that reducing inventory and process cost is good for a company, but the other 2 indicators deal with time. Why is time so important? By reducing process time, not only you can reduce the amount of money or credits that your inventory sits idle, you can more quickly react to situations that may arise in game. Suppose that in game there is a massive shortage of a gadget that your company produces, and as a result, the price for it skyrockets. If your process just takes too long, you will not be able to take advantage of this opportunity. So that's why time is important. Finally, let's talk about how to improve a process, right? So now we understand the metrics. Now we understand what a process is. Let's think about how we can improve a process. In order to improve a process, you need to understand what your theoretical flow time is and what is your critical path. Let's say you are the owner of Big Benny Noodles company. Your food preparation process might look something like this. Step 1, you take the order from the customer. Step 2, you have Ben prepare the sauce. It takes you 2 minutes. Step 3, you prepare the noodles. Step 4, Ben then takes the noodles and the sauce and mix them together in a pot. Step 5, you heat the noodles in the stove. Step 6, you have another worker, Sandy, serve the noodles. And step 7, you call the customer and give them their noodles, right? And you take the payment. So 2 minutes. The theoretical flow time is the minimum amount of time required to complete processing one flow unit, assuming all resources are available when we need them. In our Big Benny's noodles example, the theoretical flow time of one bowl of noodles is 2 plus 1 plus 1 plus 5 plus 1 plus 2. So that's 12 minutes. We now realize that the theoretical flow time is only relevant for a specific question, right? You must know the specific input, one customer, and the specific output, one bowl of noodles. This is a very simple process with only one path. So that is the critical path. The critical path is the longest path from beginning of the process to the end of the process. If you have multiple paths, as you will in some of the Star Citizen things that you can do will be very complicated. You need to compute the time taken on each path and find your longest one. So how can you improve this process? By reducing the critical path. Maybe if Big Benny's Noodles had 2 employees, one employee can prepare the noodles while another prepares the sauce. Maybe the sauce can be prepared ahead of time. Maybe you can have water already boiling. The point is that the more activities and buffers you can move from the critical path to a non-critical path, the better your flow time, your actual flow time will be. In order to improve a process throughput, we must analyze its capacity. Capacity is the maximum sustainable throughput for your process. If we look at our example, we know that we can complete one order in 12 minutes, which means that we can complete 5 orders in an hour. Can we do better? The way you try to improve throughput of your process is by looking at each individual resource and seeing its throughput. In our example, Ben takes 4 minutes total to prepare a bowl of noodles from his end and put them in the stove, which means that after 4 minutes, he is ready to prepare the next bowl of noodles. And again, in the next one, and so on and so forth. So if Ben has an unlimited amount of customers, noodles, and sauce, he can prepare noodles in the stove every 4 minutes, which means he could, in theory, make 15 bowls of noodles per hour. Similarly, we can do this with Sandy. Her throughput for her task is only 3 minutes per bowl, which means that assuming an endless supply of cooked noodles, she can serve and sell 20 bowls of noodles per hour. Lastly, we have the stove. The stove can only prepare 1 bowl of noodles every 5 minutes. Therefore, it is the slowest resource, and this is what we call the bottleneck. As long as you have this particular oven, your process cannot perform better because it's the slowest activity in your process. Over an hour, your oven will only be able to cook 12 orders of noodles. Since we have only 1 copy of Ben, 1 copy of the stove, and 1 copy of Sandy, it is now apparent that our overall process capacity is 12 orders per hour. But we are currently producing 5 orders per hour. Thus, it's your job as process manager to optimize the utilization of your bottleneck. What are some of the things you can do to increase capacity? The key action that you can take to increase capacity is to optimize the bottleneck management. You can do things like buying a bigger stove that can handle more pots. You can buy a hotter stove. You can use pots that transfer heat more efficiently. You can buy more stoves. You can ensure that the stove is always working and operating and repairing it when it gets damaged. So as you think about your own processes in Star Citizen, think about what is your bottleneck? What can you offload from the bottleneck? And how can you improve this bottleneck? This is exactly how you improve the capacity of your process. One final note to keep in mind is that it's not required that you focus on improving flow time or throughput for your organization. These improvements should only be made if they align with your company's strategy. For example, if you want to produce more products because you believe there is more demand for your services, or if you want to increase customer satisfaction. Some organizations or business models will not require that you increase the capacity and throughput. For example, if your demand is very low, but you have a guaranteed buyer in the form of NPCs or the in-game economy, There is no need to rush a process since your customers are willing to wait and will buy your product at a good price whenever you have it ready. That's all I have to say about managing processes for this episode. I hope you found this video helpful, and again, let me know in the comments if you have any questions. The Pur'N'Kleen podcast is a free Star Citizen podcast aimed at tackling the business side of the verse. It is available every Monday, but you can also get it ahead of time by signing up for the newsletter in the show notes. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and please do check us out at PurNKleen.com.